Demon Lord Rimuru is speechless upon watching the one-sided battle conclude, and he almost feels bad for ordering everyone to go all out.
Testarossa has just cast the nuclear magic, Death Streak,
leaving Benimaru pissed that Rimuru kept the Demoness's power a secret. With no escape, our slime asked if Benimaru knows of the primals, prompting Shuna to explain they are the original demons, and that Diablo, along with the 3 demonesses, are each a primal. Surprisingly, nobody is bothered by this revelation, and Diablo promises to teach Testarossa, Carrera, and Ultima a lesson for going overboard. Some newer viewers have been wondering why I use random characters in these videos. Well, sometimes the character is yet to appear in the anime, or have a full-body, collared image in the novel/manga. Now, I always do my best to select a similar looking character, and if by chance an official character model does appear, I gladly insert it into the story. Now, during this battle, the monsters did sustain a lot of injuries, but their nearly endless supply of healing potions prevented any deaths, though it did take the Dragon Newts a full day to recover from using their dragon bodies. On the opposing side, all 240,000 Eastern invaders have been killed, and their souls are currently being held inside of Rimuru.
100,000 souls can be consumed to evolve a subordinate.
And the potential candidates are as follows, though this leaves our Demon Lord very confused as to why Soei isn't eligible. But with the war still ongoing, Rimuru decides to hold off on evolving anyone until later. As it stands, Yuki's composite division is still stationed just outside of Dworgen, though they're confident in Gaziel's ability to handle that. Tempest will turn its attention to the 700,000 infantry stealthily marching through the forest. Then, due to Ultima bragging about her victory, Carrera is overly eager to deliver them a nuclear greeting. That's immediately denied, followed by Shion and Geld declaring patience is key. Of course, Tempest's plan is to lure the enemy force into the dungeon, where any Tempestian can be revived upon death. However, in the event the East completely ignores the dungeon, it will be Geld's responsibility to handle the fight on the surface. Upon arrival, the East immediately surrounds the gate. Veldora wonders if they should send an envoy like before, but the words etched into the gate are warning enough. It then dawns on Rimuru that if all 700,000 enemy troops are killed, then he could theoretically evolve 9 of his highest ranking subordinates. Then he watches as the enemies begin orderly marching through the gate, leaving everyone but Rimuru hoping some of them stay outside, that way they can fight as well. Caligula couldn't be more pleased watching everything proceed according to plan. Obviously, the monsters must be terrified right now, and the loot within will surely secure his promotion. The last he heard, Faraga and Gaster have been battling Veldora, though he's not received an update in quite a while, but he needs to focus on slaying Demon Lord Rimuru. The words etched into the gate is a clear display of the monster's ignorance, and you learn each soldier has been given 20 days worth of food, and they have been magically modified to last 7 full days without food or water. In a hidden conference room deep within the dungeon, the 10 Marvels, along with Ghidorah, Bovix, and Equix, all have gathered. The group bickers about which of them is the strongest, all the while Zegion acts as if everyone is beneath him. Kumara wonders why they're here. Beretta states it's to discuss the invading army, just as Ramirez and Veldora casually step inside. Asking for the group's thoughts, Kumara thinks they should go. Apito cuts her off, exclaiming all enemies must be killed. So in an attempt to speed up this battle, Ramirez is making some changes. Starting at floor 41, she will send 1,000 soldiers to each floor, therefore giving each dungeon marvel an equal opportunity to show off. In addition to this, anyone who enters will be unable to leave until the king of the dungeon, aka Veldora, is defeated. However, to reach the king, the invaders must collect 10 keys, each of which will be guarded by a dungeon marvel. The group erupts with excitement upon hearing this, followed by Beretta stepping forward. Today, he is relinquishing his position and control of the Elemental Colossus to Ghidorah, but whichever Marvel puts on the best performance will be rewarded with the permanent title of Dungeon Master. Then Ramirez's final change will be having Bovix and Equix guard floor 30, with the objective of preventing any soldiers from fleeing upwards. With their plan set in stone, Ramirez states their goal is to lure as many soldiers into the dungeon as possible, so to achieve this, the Marvels are ordered to lay low for the first day. Now, Demon Lord Rimuru will be personally watching their performance, which causes Zegion to finally perk up. Veldora confirms Ramirez's words to be true, and we find out that under the right conditions, Zegion is as strong as, or even potentially stronger than Veldora. The soldiers marching into the gate stay in a single file line, which allows them to pass loot backward and out of the dungeon. Though after every 1,000th soldier enters, they lose all contact. Then after one full day of continuous marching, 350,000 troops now roam the dungeon. The impressive equipment they find is a clear indication that the monsters are running scared, since nobody in their right mind would leave the stuff lying around. Though due to a lack of contact with anyone inside, Caligula can't help but feel uneasy, and decides to stop sending troops through the gate. Honestly, he didn't think it'd take more than a day to entirely clean out this dungeon. I mean, all they have to do is kill the king, which he believes to be the weak Demon Lord Rimuru. To be on the safe side, they decide to send in even more troops, be it at a much slower pace than before. Though 2 full days later, the officers begin bickering amongst themselves and halt any further reinforcements, as only 170,000 troops remain on the surface. The soldiers who entered floors 41 to 48 are making steady progress, but those on 49 are nearly being overrun by an army of slimes. It takes 3 full days to break through to floor 50, only to be confronted with 10 Tempest Serpents, which respawn every time they're killed. Now, floor 51 through 59 is littered with traps and golems, though floor 60 is blocked by a gigantic Magisteel boss. Not only is it immune to their attacks, but this golem sounds eerily similar to the great sorcerer Ghidorah. There's also a pesky group of 5 monsters running around, slaughtering anyone they find. Next up is the undead floors from 61 to 70, which at the bottom houses an impenetrable gate protecting a massive city. Though at the start of the second day, the doors swing open, revealing an army of undead monsters, and any human who dies here is destined to join the undead ranks. Continuing downward on floors 71 to 79, the soldiers are slowly pushing through swarms of insects. It's around the 24-hour mark, heads suddenly begin to explode due to the 1,000 unbelievably fast rank A wasp under Apito's control. On floors 81 to 89, the invaders find each floor to be home to one of Kumara's tails in its magical beast form. These range from a powerful brute force gorilla to a rat that kills its foes through disease and dehydration. Thus, only a few days after the invasion began, all 530,000 Eastern soldiers have been slain. It's been 1 week since they arrived, and Caligula is terrified to think that everyone who entered has been killed. With 530,000 troops, they only managed to collect 4 out of the 10 keys, each of which was guarded by a dragon lord. This means they still need to defeat 6 dungeon marvels, so to this end, an elite squadron is formed from their 100 best remaining soldiers. The noteworthy members are Minutes the Commander, the famous champion Kanzus, and 2 other worlders named Lucius and Raymond. Of course, Caligula gives a heart-wrenching speech about the importance of their mission, followed by Minutes promising to conquer this dungeon. Surprised, our group watches as the East prepares to send even more troops into the dungeon.
Due to communication being cut off, they're likely hoping victory is near.
Maybe leaking some info will cause them to flee.
Anyone who escapes is very likely to attack again later.
Ramirez declares the 100 soldiers entering are super strong, and that Ghidorah wishes to speak with the 2 other worlders. Also, Kumara recognizes one soldier to be the man who destroyed her village, and Benimaru grants her a chance at revenge. In addition, they will send the squad's commander to Apito, and the remaining forces can go against Aldemon's undead army. And it's after warning Ramirez to be cautious that our demon lord sits back, excited to watch this battle. You come to find out that Lucius and Raymond highly respected Ghidorah, and went behind their commander's back to volunteer for this mission, all to find out the truth regarding Zen, Mark, and Shinji. Though regret quickly creeps in after they barely survived floor 59. Now, as the elite squad, they were given replica resurrection bracelets. However, it's a necklace, and honestly, they don't expect them to work. Then it's shortly after mentioning some unknown woman, the duo enters floor 60, only to be greeted by Ghidorah, and one conversation later, Raymond and Lucius agree to live in Tempest. After an extended battle outside the undead city, it comes down to a mere 3 versus 3. Each pair is nearly equal in skill, however the soldiers' legendary armor lends them a slight advantage. Benimaru declares Alberto will lose. Diablo states Alderman will fall shortly after. As Shion exclaims, "Victory will be ours!" It turns out the swordsman Krishna is Imperial Guardian rank 17, Wizard Reha rank 94, and Warrior Nazan rank 34. With another clash, Alberto's cursed sword snaps, marking the end of that duel. As predicted, Alderman puts up an impressive defense, but is overwhelmed in the 2 versus 1. Then of course, the lone dragon is slain not long after, marking the undead's defeat. Even so, the group has definitely earned Rimuru's praise. Minutes is elegantly strolling through floor 78, effortlessly obliterating insects with his unique skill, Oppressor, which allows him to crush anything within his line of sight. Eventually, the Insect Queen declares he's acting full of himself, but to Minutes, she looks just as weak as the rest. Her extreme speed dodges his sight, but Minutes conjures a barrier around himself and casually walks forward. Retreating back to her throne, they each respectfully introduce themselves before it begins. The queen turns into a blur, but Minutes is able to keep up. Speeding up even more, Apito is caught by Oppressor and slammed into the floor. Forcefully bursting free, breaks her arms and wings, but Apito can't back down, as it's her job to at least expose the enemy's skills. Moving even quicker than before forces Minutes back into his barrier, and literal hours pass during this standoff. The Insect Queen exclaims her next attack will finish this, followed by Minutes promising to end her pain. She attacks, then dodges, but Minutes anticipated it, as Apito is crushed flat, but spat poison needles at the last second, successfully piercing his heart. With that, this lengthy battle is concluded. However, when a human reaches Minutes' level, a destroyed heart isn't enough to kill him. An unknown voice then echoes throughout the chamber.
My name is Zegion. You've earned the right to challenge me.
The Mystic Village was a home for magical beasts, which was ruled by Kumara's mother. She had power to rival a demon lord, but even so, she was extremely calm and peaceful. Then one day a man arrived, decimated their home, killed Kumara's mother, and sold her off to Clayman. Stepping inside, a beautiful woman welcomes him, which he recognizes to be the little fox from way back then. Kansas gloats that her mother brought him great fame, pissing her off as a white ape attacks, summoning a stronger dark ape in response. The fox recognizes it to be one of her mother's gentle beasts, which she grew up playing with. In a rage, she summons the rabbit and mouse, but her opponent does the same, while adding a dark tiger and snake as well. He offers to accept this fox as his pet, and seeing all 5 of her mother's beasts breaks this fox's heart. But she's surpassed her mother and unleashes all 8 tails at once. This does pique Kansas' interest, but individually, his 5 beasts are stronger, so the battle is currently at a draw. It turns out that Kansas' unique skill is
Looter,
which allows him to summon the creatures he's previously slain. Kansas laughs, while summoning a dark version of her very own mother. This dark abomination slaughters 2 of the fox's beasts, so she thinks back to Hinata's training, before recalling all of her tales. The Shadow Beast's claws reach her, but are effortlessly blocked alongside Kansas' knife, as the fox proclaims her name to be Kumara. A single swipe destroys the abomination and knife, while the man is diced to pieces a second later. Thus, Kumara can finally be satisfied, as her mother is finally resting peacefully. Floor 80 is empty with the exception of a table, food, and large door at the end. Minutes is greeted by 3 Imperial Guardians, as the group has to assume all of their soldiers, except maybe Kansas, to be dead. That being said, they currently have 7 of the 10 keys, and Kansas' victory will put them at 8. Now the large door is sealed shut, but has a timer ticking down, and Minutes realizes it's the exact amount of time he needs to fully recover. Though as the countdown nears 0, they're forced to accept that Kansas won't be joining them. Reiha illuminates the room, where a single monster is meditating above a large pile of corpses. This overwhelming presence causes them to assume it to be Demon Lord Rimuru. Enraged at their disrespect toward his lord, Zegion declares they each deserve death. The warrior charges, his attack is deflected, followed by a single punch ending his life. Stunned and speechless, the wizard is bisected next, causing the swordsman to unleash the unblockable attack.
Dimension Cutter.
Absolute Defense nullifies it. Minutes attempts to hold this monster down, but Dimension Ray ends the final 2 challengers. You see, Zegion's life was saved by taking in part of Rimuru's body, which thus allowed Raphael to teach him skills and even optimize him. Our slime exclaims Zegion might be stronger than Benimaru, and you learn Diablo, nor the 3 demonesses could best Zegion. Now, with that shock out of the way, there's 170,000 troops still remaining on the surface, so Rimuru offers up the idea of waiting for them to leave, but Benimaru isn't about to let the enemy walk away.
I have a suggestion, but it's best to wait until this war is over.
If the cabinet members join this fight, they'll surely win without any casualties. However, someone has to stay behind to protect Lord Rimuru. Our slime wonders if any spies could be hiding within Tempest, but Soe states that's already been taken care of.
Krishna is the only person who entered the dungeon that survived. He was wearing a resurrection bracelet that Ghidorah took back to the east.
Rimuru warns everyone to be careful as they're still outnumbered. Benimaru volunteers to stay behind, allowing Shion, Geld, Diablo, and Carrera to enter the war. The plan is to begin with a big AoE spell, which will be Carrera's role for the day. Diablo did actually want to volunteer for it, but is instead given the honor of murdering the enemy's commander. Of course, Geld will be on the front line as their shield, allowing Shion's troops to attack from the side. This plan is still lacking an on-field commander. The door bursts open, with Monmiji volunteering to take her future husband's place on the battlefield. Shion supports this. Rimuru asks if Benimaru agrees, but is met with stuttering complaints. The door bursts open a second time, with Shuna supporting Momiji, as she states this is Benimaru's fault for taking so long to choose a wife. The door bursts open again, as Alvis arrives with 20,000 reinforcements from Milam, and she's given the position opposite of Shion on the battlefield. Then just as everyone begins the operation, Soei suddenly reveals that Trainee has been battling someone for the past 10 days, so Rimuru asks him to assist her. After teleporting their troops to the surface, Rimuru realizes this would be the perfect opportunity for someone to ambush him.
Unlikely, as I've already analyzed all potential threats.
Masayuki, Jinrai, and Bernie then approach, as apparently the vampire researchers within Tempest are itching to join the battle. Our slime brushes them off, saying the war is almost over, which pisses off Jinrai, and causes Bernie to exclaim it's the hero's job to fight the Demon Lord. A holy field is cast,
Murderous intent detected.
as Benimaru's sword is blocked. Masayuki and Jinrai are genuinely surprised at this development, followed by Bernie proclaiming he was only using Masayuki in order to get closer to Demon Lord Rimuru. No longer holding back, Bernie announces that Masayuki is a fake hero. However, Jinrai already knew and doesn't care. Rimuru straight up admits he bluffs his way through everything, and Masayuki wants to know if Yuki is behind this.
Another member of Masayuki's party is suspicious. A mass murder just took place on floor 100, temporarily storing Bacchus and the vampire's souls.
Chloe's scream allows him to narrowly dodge, and since Raphael didn't notice Ji-Woo, she must be using an ultimate skill. Being single-digit Imperial Guardians, Bernie and Ji-Woo don their legendary armor, and Rimuru steps up to protect Masayuki. He then warns Benimaru that he's likely to lose this matchup due to his lack of an ultimate skill.
Beginning analysis of opponents.
The lightning spear clashes with the flaming sword, and Rimuru notices his predict attack skill isn't working. Bernie compliments this monster, but Benimaru deems him disappointing, and watching this causes Rimuru to grow unsure whether or not Zegion is actually superior. Benimaru successfully lands a finishing slash, however Bernie's ultimate skill nullifies it. Now Chloe is by far the stronger fighter, but Ji-Woo is just running around being a nuisance, such as lobbing spells toward Tempest, forcing Rimuru to guard the city instead of attacking. A magical barrier prevents them from calling for help, so in an attempt to break the stalemate, Chloe freezes time,
She failed to control it.
and finds herself in child form once again.
Analysis complete. Both enemies share numerous skills. They must be borrowing them from someone else.
If that's possible, then he could lend Benimaru his absolute severance, and even though he's embarrassed, Benimaru gladly accepts. Next, our slime asks Chloe to just try and stall. Kronoa and Chloe are both confident they can win, so Rimuru accepts, but wants them to stop time once again, as he will help them control it. The only problem is they don't have enough energy left to initiate it.
That is not a problem.
Now, with confidence that his sword won't break, Benimaru goes on the offensive and swiftly cuts Bernie into 3 separate pieces. Kronoa can't seem to activate the skill.
Not a problem.
Chloe groans in pain, time freezes, and Ji-Woo is now a pile of dust.
Both enemies were wearing resurrection bracelets.
Followed by Jinrai revealing that the group wore the bracelets on their ankles as a small act of rebellion against the Demon Lord. Now back in the control room, Ramirez was worried, and Veldora complains Rimuru stole his energy. After telling Raphael to get permission next time, he turns his attention toward the restrained prisoner. Angrily, Benimaru wonders why he's still alive, and Laplace complains his attackers wouldn't listen when he said he had an important message for Rimuru. It turns out one of Yuki's underlings, named Amrata, was actually a spy from the east, so they have reason to believe Bernie and Ji-Woo might be spies as well. It's been 2 full days since the squad of 100 elites entered the dungeon, and Caligulo is faking anger in order to mask his anxiety. Just as Misha reports the magic tank force has been completely annihilated. Obviously, she urges them to retreat. Caligulo states the elite squad was given the Empire's resurrection bracelets. However, Yuki apparently doesn't think they'll work. Suddenly, Krishna enters the tent, declaring that everyone else who entered the dungeon has been killed. In a panic, the officers beg to flee. Misha explains that the magic tank force did not encounter Veldora, causing Caligulo to order the retreat. No. Agera, aka Carrera's servant, states his master can't simply allow them to leave. An officer asks if his master is Rimuru, followed by that man's head rolling across the ground. Agera has come to accept their surrender, as Tempest will graciously welcome them as slaves. Countering, Caligulo offers money and an alliance, stating that together, Tempest and the Empire can easily conquer the world. Agera simply says they should have listened to Testarosa's warning. Misha wants to know what they'll do. Caligula admits their only option is to fight, as they must buy time for someone to escape with all this intel. The officers cheer, shouting they'll fight alongside Caligula, but Misha openly says she's not brave enough to die here. That's okay, because Caligula orders her to tell everyone of his utter failure, as Ji-Woo and Bernie arrive, volunteering to escort her. Thus, with their collective hopes pinned on Misha's escape, Caligula declares they'll attack before the monsters are ready. Now it's Geld's job to be the impenetrable wall. That way Momiji's troops can cast magic safely from behind them. Shion and Alvis's troops are positioned to each side, leaving the only uncertainty being which woman will Benimaru choose to marry. Deciding it's best not to get mixed up in that feud, Geld looks to the sky, eager to see what magic Carrera will unleash. Agera explains he gave them 1 hour to make a decision, but Carrera really wants to practice by casting nuclear magic into the sky. A spirit, another servant, thinks this is a wonderful idea, and after some more bickering they notice the enemies are already moving. Carrera thinks a bunch of mini nuclear explosions will be perfect, but Agera reminds her that Lord Rimuru wants one big flashy spell. Finally making up her mind, and saying she's never successfully cast this one before, Carrera initiates
Gravity collapse.
Immense pressure forms a black hole, crushing everyone in its vicinity, only for it to collapse into a massive explosion, eliminating roughly 90% of the remaining invaders. Geld is beyond impressed, but kind of sad there's so few enemies left over. On the right flank, Shion lets her troops run wild, all the while on the opposite side, Alvis is surprised Rimuru is being so ruthless, though she does believe this is proper for a demon lord. From the rear, Momiji notices the one-sidedness of this battle, and decides to end their enemy's suffering. Channeling all of her troops' magic into herself, she forms and shapes it into the spell Mystic Crimson Moon. A magical red flower bursts into the sky, removing all oxygen beneath it, followed by the flower descending and burning the last of the survivors. Caligula is pondering where he went wrong as he witnesses his army being decimated. The despairing officers beg to surrender, however Diablo isn't about to allow that. Krishna cowers in fear at this demon's presence, but Caligula bravely attempts to negotiate. Knowing they're stalling for time, he conjures 2 corpses, declaring the 3 escapees have already been dealt with. Though being Yuki's companion, he did allow Misha to escape. With no other option, Caligula orders everyone at the camp to attack, as the tent falls, revealing everyone else is already dead. And with a snap of 2 fingers, Caligula is the last remaining person alive. With ear-splitting screams of despair, Caligula's body is instantly pushed past its limits, evolving into an enlightened. With power now rivaling an awakened demon lord, he realizes just how much of an ignorant fool he was, before vowing to fix that mistake and donning his god-class armor. Throwing a massive punch with unfathomable power.
How disappointing.
It's brushed off, with Diablo stating Caligula isn't yet used to this new strength, and that Bernie and Ji-Woo's borrowed power was far more troublesome. Opening his eyes, he bolts upright, as a young girl places a light into Krishna's body. Obviously, Caligula is speechless, causing the young girl to wonder if she messed up. Feeling less powerful than before, he learns this would-be girl is actually Demon Lord Rimuru, the person who resurrected them. Of course, Caligula wonders why he would do this, and is told they were brought back to be his pawns. We learn this plan was solely Raphael's idea, as it's been researching souls ever since Shion died. A soul essentially has 2 parts, the heart, which is your person, while the rest makes up your power and skills. Basically, Rimuru removed and implanted their soul hearts into pseudo-souls, just like how he made the dungeon avatars. This allows people to be revived, however they lack skills and have significantly reduced magical ability. Demon Lord Rimuru's hope is that doing this might help the East to not hate him. Plus, it allows the revived soldiers to take responsibility for their actions. It's on Alderman's floor that they've collected and laid out all the Imperial corpses, though 240,000 were beyond repair. Kanzas is among the unsalvageable, though Rimuru wasn't going to revive him anyway. Not feeling guilty over the deaths, but sad it did have to turn out this way, our slime begins slowly reviving the soldiers, which results in the resurrected worshipping Demon Lord Rimuru. After finishing up, everyone is told the second life is to be considered temporary, and that all of them have been cursed, so they better not even think about betraying him. Though Caligula is confident that nobody here would ever turn their back on this unbelievable act of kindness. Divine and not a hacker. A big thanks to both of you for becoming my newest patrons.